to invite you to join me as I discuss life from a medium's perspective. I'll be talking about insights that I've gained through readings, with topics like your guides, angels, animal communication, past lives, our transition, and the afterlife. We'll take a deeper look at the metaphysical meanings of symbols and totems, and I'll give you some practical exercises to help you develop your own natural psychic ability. Join me on From a Medium's Perspective.
The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and FreedomSlips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, FreedomSlips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Well, it's time to stumble down the road with host Bridgette Lyn Dolgoff and co-host Jenny Vaught as they carry stones, dig holes, and wield their shovels along the way. On Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. This is not a seated event as they talk, run, stumble, carry, dig, drag, laugh, fight, sing and pray, dance and kick and scream, and oftentimes fall. Hey, is that a stone or a buffalo chick? Now, here are your hosts for the next 2 hours on carrying stones and digging holes. But I won't be there.
The hell I won't.
Hey everybody, this is Bridgette Lyn Dolgoff. Get my dad up here. With carrying stones and digging holes. I'm pretty sure we're live. Anyway, I didn't hear any indications that we may be live. Anyway, so carrying stones and digging holes radio show on Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, and you can help support our network by going to the Revolution Radio freedomslips.com website, and you can look under funding. We're doing paid advertising banners these days. We also have tons of heirloom seeds that you can help support our station. And also, if you just want to do a little donation, you can do that as well. But go there and see what you can help with to keep us on air. All of us volunteer our time to bring these shows to you and hold the network together. So we rely on public to help us in our endeavors. And also, I'm on 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Saturday in Studio A. So you can go to freedomslips.com, Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, and you can go to the schedule on the left-hand side, click on that, and it will bring up Studio A or Studio B. You go to Studio A, click on that, and then scroll down to the 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and you'll see Carrying Stones and Digging Holes, and you'll see a big old bee with pollen stuck to it flying towards the flower. So that is where I'm at. So let's see, anything else that's important to, probably not. We're probably good to go on all the other information that we just told you. I just told you. So today I have a guest, Jules Brecke, and Jules is going to talk to us about her experiences. And so we're going to talk about all kinds of topics relating to the Red Road and her journey and her path and what she knows and amazing things about that. So we're going to ask Jules to actually talk about her background. Jules is Seneca, and then maybe she can talk to us about how all that played into her life in the past, and as long as it takes her to get through like a bio up until now, and she can go as fast or slow as she chooses. Hey, Jules, are you there?
Greetings. Yes, I am here.
Awesome. So do you want to give our listeners kind of a background about your life, like a bio, and you can take as long as you like.
Absolutely. Well, greetings, my relatives. I'm so happy to be here today. Like Bridgette said, I'm a Seneca Indian. When I was growing up, I grew up in Minnesota, and I visited a lot of reservations because that's where my aunties lived, yet I didn't really understand, what being an Indian was all about, because it was easier for my mother to not be an Indian, because it was just, that time, 1928, 1930, when she was going to college. Anyhow, so I was born in Minnesota, and we moved out to Reno, Nevada. And we lived in Reno for a super, super long time. At one time, I got a fortune cookie that said, "Time for a change, try Hawaii." And I never really knew too much about my heritage other than what, they taught me in the school books, because I did grow up in Nevada, where there are a lot of reservations and a lot of different tribes up here. When I moved to Maui, I got to live way out in the middle of nowhere, and that was a beautiful thing for me. And a girlfriend came to visit me from Hawaii, and she brought with her a stick of sage. Sorry, I kind of filled up with tears there for a second. She brought me the stick of sage, and she told me, she said, "Jules," she was so excited to see me, because she herself had been walking the Red Road and wanted to share that information with me. The little bit that she shared with me when I was on Maui opened my heart so much that finally I felt like I had a direction to go, because my mother was Indian and my father was not. And when I was a child, they had me go to the Christian ceremonies with my father, and in my heart it didn't make me happy or bring me joy. So I think I struggled for a long time with my own spirituality and my own connection with the Creator. However, my mother and my mother's sisters, or my aunties, they always reminded each other that we were Native American. Not that they really knew too much about it, because like I said before, they weren't taught that. It wasn't something that was honorable or to be proud of in their days. When I got to Nevada, or came back to Nevada after my girlfriend brought me that little stick of sage, I went to a show with her one day, and it was a reggae show, and we were there and enjoying some music, and I had just asked her if there was a possibility that I could meet some of the people that had educated her in this way. And while I was waiting for her, listening to this beautiful reggae concert, somebody, inadvertently handed me this pipe, and I took a little hit off of it. And from that moment on, I have been able to see more clearly and understand more clearly and be able to hear people talking and trees talking, no matter how far they are away. So I continue my journey on a search, to find the right teacher, having studied all kinds of other genres, if you would. And I came across Auntie. Auntie Flo. And she so graciously took my hand and looked me in the eye and told me that I had no idea who I was. But there I was, all proud, thinking, oh yeah, I know who I am. I know just who I am. Well, she was right. I was pretty well clueless. Even though, I was 40 years old, I still thought I had it going on and I wasn't clueless. So I studied with Auntie Flo, and she taught me the ways of our elders. In the oldest of ways, she taught me. She taught me how to offer tobacco. She taught me how to be a good human being. She took me to the people who taught me how to sing. She taught me of the spirits of the four directions. She taught me how to walk the red road with my head high and how to honor my elders and the people who came before me. Those who sat in lodges and prayed for me when I was a child. Prayed for all of you when you were children. She took me by the hand for 25 years. And she taught me, and every day she told me to get over myself. She taught me how to be kind and to be a good human being. And one day she just told me, okay, little birdie, you go fly away and you live your life and help other people to understand that walking the Indian road is not just something you read about. It's something you live every single moment, every day of your life. Today on my journey to where I'm sitting here right now, I came across a forest full of trees, and a lot of them had burnt down. And I cried for them, and then I heard them tell me to not cry for them because burning down was part of their journey, that these sugar pine trees needed some tremendous amount of temperature and heat to reproduce. And I'm sure that my ability to listen and hear these trees speak to me today came from, the teaching of my elders in my Indian way. When I started studying with Flo, first she took me to Sweat Lodge, and I learned a lot about Sweat Lodge. And then she took me to a Sundance ceremony, and there I became a Sundancer and picked up the sacred Chanupa for the people. And I learned a lot at Sundance. I learned how, we all come from different directions and how that's okay. Today, I try to pass on that information to my children and hopefully to their children's children. I have a new little granddaughter, and I'm passing that information on to her because she comes and she picks up the drum. When I was a kid, it was pretty interesting to be the only Indian kid in school because all the other kids that were Indian went to school on the reservation and I did not. There was one other girl that I went to school with that was Native American. I met her in kindergarten, and later on again, I met her in junior high school amongst a fight between, people. And her and I just looked at her and we agreed that we weren't going to fight because it was just something Indians shouldn't do, is fight amongst themselves. You see a lot of that these days. And then oddly enough, we grew up to be great friends. And then I came to find out that she was the daughter of Auntie Flo, who taught me the Indian ways. And that just made that journey all more sacred for me and all more touching of the heart and creating families. I've been through a lot of stuff in my short little years. And being an Indian and walking with my head tall, it has to be the greatest adventure. Because every day I get to touch people and be with people in a manner of their hearts are wanting to be reminded that they're a good human being and how easy it is to be a good human being. Sometimes that's all we need, is to be reminded that we're all here on this sacred earth mother together. And we're here to protect her and each other. And all that takes is kindness. It's hard to talk about yourself. I thought it was going to be easy. Ask me a question.
It's super hard to talk about yourself. Radio has taught me a lot about, I'm getting kind of emotional listening to you. It's taught me a lot about being vulnerable and being real and, and bringing topics to people, that can help educate all people and show that there's, commonalities, and that we're not really separated, no matter what it looks like, and that, the earth is, and her families are, our most important focus, should be our most important focus right now. So how I met Jules, everybody, kind of changed the subject, so I'm not so teary, no, but great.
You can cry later.
I know, I can cry later. But really great opening about yourself. So I met Jules. She came to a place where I have been staying and have been growing some native seeds. And Greg Schoen, who's been on our channel, he was taken in by a native man named White Eagle, like in the 70s. He was a white horticulturist guy, and he needed to pass on his lineage of seeds, that his ancient native seeds that his family carried. And so he kind of brought Greg in, and Greg has been finding and growing big outgrows of native seeds to return them back to the people that they belong to, and also sharing them for free, and also educating people. And he's an amazing person that has recently come into my life too. So he actually is the manager of the seed bank for the 13th Indigenous grandmother. So he's just really an amazing guy. So anyway, he sent me a whole bunch of seeds, and so one of the seeds I decided to grow some corn, and then I was trying to figure out what I was going to do with it once it was done. Like who am I going to get to carry it to the next place or the ceremonies or whatever else. And so I really feel like the corn kind of brought Jules into the property at the times where I was there, because I think it was asking, to be returned to some of the native people in the area. So that's kind of like how Jules came. And when I first approached her about taking the corn on, the rest of its journey once it's all done, and so she sung a Lakota traditional earth song, and you could feel the plants. You could feel the energy field like heat up and vibrate. The plants were just so ecstatic, the corn. So anyway, Jules, so what do you think, just, out of curiosity, what do you think some of the major, hurdles or untruths or things that are going on in this world between people or the earth? Is there anything that you think a lot about that maybe ends up on the top of your prayer list?
Well, the things that always are on the top of my prayer list are taking care of the Earth Mother. There's a lot of people here now that we never used to have so many people on the planet. And even though I have the understanding, and I hope that you all do too, that, everything that's here came from Creator. Nothing came from anything else. Creator gave us these great minds and these beautiful bodies to carry us through and to create things and to do things. And sometimes we, the people, can make a choice to create things that aren't so good for the earth. And the top on my prayer list is, the poisons and the toxins, the number one, the glyphosates. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. Glyphosate, the Roundup products, and those kind of things, and all these other cancerins and cigarettes and so many other things that are causing the people to not function as well as they could. I work in a medical clinic, in a chiropractic clinic, so it's an alternative medical clinic, you could say. I work with a great doctor. His name is Dr. Brecke, and he does Atlas orthogonal chiropractic. And if our heads aren't on straight and we can't get great food into our bodies, it makes it harder and harder for us to exist and to remember that we're human beings and we're meant to be walking around and moving and exercising and enjoying all this beautiful stuff, the sun and the moon and the water, the wild birds. And if we keep destroying our planet by putting toxins into it, it then puts toxins into us. And then we can't walk or we can't think straight. I mean, those are the top of my prayers, is that the people will wake up and start putting great food into their bodies so that they can remember how it is to be a good human being. Because if we don't honor our body and feed it good food, the good foods that you're bringing back, those are the kind of things I worry about and pray about, because I want the next generation. I was taught that when we talk about the generations to follow, that a generation is 500 years. I mean, that's a long time. And if we want more generations to exist here today, then human beings have to wake up and stop polluting the earth and, cutting back on, let's say everything.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I know. I always worked, with Native people, and, they would always say things like, yeah, we have to carry this forward, 7 generations into the future. And until I met Jules and we were standing in the kitchen one day, she goes, do you have any idea what that means? I was like, no, in my mind, I'm thinking maybe 80 years is a generation, right? She's like, no, 1 generation's 500 years. I almost hit the floor. I'm like, let me do the mathematics on that. 7 generations would be 3,500 years into the future.
That's a long time. And to think that 3,500 years ago, there was elders sitting around in sweat lodges praying for our future, praying for the opportunity that the generations that come to follow have clean air and fresh fish and plenty of buffalo. They had no idea we'd have cell phones and broadcasts and movie theaters.
Yeah.
They were happy to just sit down in the wind.
Yeah, it's like quite a different world now compared to 3,500 years ago. It's like almost the exact opposite, right?
Right, and who knows what it'll be like in 3,500 years from now.
Yeah. So, one of the things that is always at the top of my list is like how, with a lot of the work that I'm doing is, moving into large scale land restoration and bringing a lot of different kinds of native plants into it. That's my long range goal. But, and then growing different things now. So, and having relationships with them so that I can, utilize them to help with the healing, and moving the stuff forward. And I know with a lot of the traditional native seeds, they're before heirloom. So people have to realize like that they're long before the heirloom. These kinds of plants were so sacred to people that there were people who you could turn over the seed and it would have a code on it. And so the people that would have that type of genetic or that seed, they'd actually tattoo it on their chin, because they called it the chin corn, because then the other tribes could see the kind of the DNA of the corn of which they considered their family member, and so they could decide whether they're going to marry in or, that was like a major asset before we had money. That was their currency that they shared, and it took care of their family and the families that married into their relationships and then the whole 9 yards. But I think a lot about, I hate this whole idea of, this sci-fi kind of future, where there's like all there is skyscrapers. And, I'm not really opposed to air cars or, flying in the air or whatever kind of cars. But I always think about like what happened to the earth, in a lot of those in the future, because the other thing too is like if we don't have a connection to the earth, and there are so many different spiritual texts that are very old all over, and oral history that talk about, that our bodies are the same as the soil. We came from it and we'll return back to it, these kinds of thoughts. So we become kind of more, like Jules was kind of saying, disconnected from our bodies and from our minds, and not having our heads on straight. And so how do we, move forward with promoting, taking care of the soil and not just building on it, but and planting and creating, bigger spaces where we have flood mitigation, and the plants in the area and the native natural areas are actually collecting water and returning it back into the aquifers. Because right now a lot of the water is being detoured, back into the ocean and other places, other than allowing it to kind of spread back onto the land to be filtered and reabsorbed into the aquifers. I mean, there's no reason we should have empty aquifers. It's just because of the building and how things have been built, and kind of in a non-sacred way, where a lot of the ancient people would have considered the areas and, talked to like Jules was saying, talking to the trees. They would have talked to the areas and the plants, and they would have talked to them about potential, setting up their winter camp or setting up their summer camp, and how that ecosystem felt about that, to determine whether they were going to put it there or not. So
the native,
yeah, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I just wanted to say that, the natives would have asked permission to be there. When the members of the tribe would move and they would find a land, they would ask permission to stay. They didn't just assume that it was okay because it was there and there was nothing there, that it was theirs and they could override it and take it. There's an understanding that we're just borrowing this place. I don't know if we're really from here, are we? I mean, if the ancient codes are there and they're in the corn, and I think that we just forgot where we're, and we're just here borrowing Earth.
Yeah, and for a short period of time.
For a short period of time, which is a really long time, but for other realms, it's probably a second. A flash of a second. And I think that, one way that individuals can help is to, pay attention to where they buy their food, what kind of food they buy, buy from local farmers. Because then, that calms other things down. And always be grateful for what you do buy. I think if even though we've given up our hunting and gathering skills, not everybody, but, the majority of the people on the planet no longer hunt and gather their own food. They go to the grocery store and they gather it there. I mean, that's the way it is now. I mean, I would like to see it turn around one day personally myself. However, when I am in the store, I remember to be grateful for those people who did hunt and gather that for me, and, take pity on the food that I'm eating, because it's not like, some happy cow's walking down the street. Hey, look, I'm going to go get some food today. And boom, down he goes because it's his time and he's going to feed for dinner tonight. It's not that way. I mean, our animals are, locked in cages, and our land is repeatedly, planted and planted and planted, never giving it a chance to nourish it again. So if we become more conscious of how we eat and how we choose our food, I do believe that there's hope to turn it around. I think that my children's generation, the generation that's, coming up after me, like I said, I'm 60 years old. My daughter's a dietitian and nutritionist and a chef, and she's got a whole nother idea of, all the mistakes that the human beings made before she got here, and her ability to change that. I think that we're definitely moving towards that, and hopefully that we're reaching that tipping point. the consciousness of the people, because the more people that we can get to think alike, the faster we can make things happen. So thanks, Bridgette, for having a show like this, so we can talk about this kind of stuff.
This is the stuff I love to talk about.
I'm just out here talking to the tree by myself. At least you guys are with me today.
Yeah,
which I am. So just so you know, I'm standing underneath a 200-foot pine tree, which you stood under yourself.
Yeah,
before we got evacuated.
Yeah, I know. Jules invites me up. She's like, "Oh yeah, come up. We'll have a relaxing weekend." And I'm getting up there and passing through all these sheriffs and stuff. And I get there and there's helicopters flying over. And Jules goes, "Hey, what's going on?" I'm like, "Hey, dude, do you notice that there's a fire and they're doing like volunteer evacuation?" She's like, "Oh no, that's another fire." I'm like, "No, one just started here close to your house." She's like, "Oh my God." So for 2 hours,
it was freaky.
We waited until they set the alarm, and then it was like forced evacuation,
Yeah, so big Matakwiyase, and thank you so much to all the firefighters that are working diligently all over the planet. I mean, these guys, they saved my community, and I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, you guys got really lucky, came right to the edge. But I think it's interesting because aren't you in the future? That's where you're going to put your lodge when you start moving into actually returning the medicine, doing your medicine work?
Yes, exactly, because I have, and then a friend of mine just bought the land next door, so he'll keep that spot nice and sacred too, trying not to do too much or anything to the land. But we did find a space that, did invite me over and said, "Hey, like right here, Jules, hey, let's go sit over there. Let's go sit over there. Come on," like as if you guys can see me walking across the field here, because that's what I'm doing. Don't you just love modern technology?
I do.
I'm on my cell phone. I'm on my cell phone with my headphones on.
On my international radio show.
On your international radio show. So I am sitting down on the ground here where I want to put that lodge.
Yeah. Well, the great thing about having a radio show, one thing I like about radio is that people don't know who you are unless you tell them, and they don't know the color of your skin. They don't know, they don't know anything about you. So it kind of is like sometimes storytelling, like we're doing today. We're talking about, different things and so that people can get a bigger sense of who we are. And I think, also too, a lot of the, obviously there's serious problems with cell phone towers and 5G and all the things that they're doing now. And, but it also links us all in a really good way. And I think it could, I don't know about other people, but I try to use...
Chief Joseph talked about it.
Yeah, so I just try to use...
In his speech.
I try to use it to actually link people together, so that people can kind of get a bigger, we'll just call it a bridge, right? I'm the bridge. I'm creating a bridge. But,
why not? Hey.
Yeah, so that people...
Perfect.
I know. So people can get to know each other and drop, the false pretenses and categorizations that people are using, to create, false belief systems, and maybe hopefully bring us closer together and help us to work, for common goals that are, in a good way, So, and like you were saying, I totally believe that food is a blessing. And I think that visiting your farmer, going out and looking at your organic farmers and the people who produce what they produce is always a good thing, because you're going to respect them a lot more and you're going to help them and appreciate them. And, maybe someday we'll go, there's this really great story, Jules. It happened in Reno. And this was like about, 10 years ago, but there was a girl who was bartending and she just really wanted to grow food. I'm not really sure if she knew a whole lot about growing food at that time, but she got a whole bunch of people in her community to buy kind of a vacant, sand lot in the Reno area in the city, and also help her pay for a pretty good sized greenhouse so that she could grow food outside and inside, so there was a summer area and a winter area. And then what happened was that in order to pay back for the land and the greenhouse and all that, she started to do like a CSA, and it was family CSA. So there were like 20 families that bought in, and then they would get enough produce and whatever else that she was doing every week. And they would pay for that, right? They would pay for the family CSA. And so she was just really growing 100% for just these 20 families. I mean, mostly, vegetables, a few eggs, things like that. But it would be really great if, we could create more community things like that where it's supported. And then you can come and, get your produce or whatever else. And then if you want to help volunteer, once a week or whatever, you can help her pull weeds or help the person do whatever they need to do. But yeah, they were getting all kinds of different stuff. She was just really kicking it into high. But it would be great to see more of that, to be able to walk to your corner grocery market down the road and pick
That'd
up
be great. Well, you know how
fresh stuff.
I've always done it, raising my kids, because most of my children's life I was a single mom and, single employee working, one job. I was able to feed my kids with 100% organic foods and then keeping them healthy. So they never had to go to a doctor. The only doctor they ever saw were chiropractors. So now they're 30 and 27, 13. Still haven't seen any MDs. But I was able to feed them organic by starting organic food buying clubs. There's a company out there, it's called United Natural Foods, and they will, they'll sell to anybody who has a, a business license and a storefront. So, sell their product in their store. They also sell to food buying clubs. And, food buying clubs, just get 3 or 4 of your girlfriends or boyfriends, whoever, together that like to eat organically. You spend, $500 a month at the Whole Foods and say, hey, look, I got a better option. They even have little name tags like who at the Whole Foods and other stores about what the name of the products that you love. You just have to buy them a case at a time, that's all. Or go on these food buying websites, and you could start your own group and put it on there, and everybody goes to that page and puts what they want, and if they want to split a case of something. And I don't know if you're raising kids and you got 3 or 4 of them. I mean, my kids love ketchup, but what I didn't like was the sugar and the high fructose corn syrup and all the other preservatives and things that they put in there. So buying organic is, can be pretty spendy. They're like $6 a bottle. And buying it wholesale like that, you're paying the same price, only that the manufacturers sell to the wholesalers. And that makes it affordable, and then you got a greater community and a greater sense of getting to know people. And when I lived in Oregon, we had that. We had one gentleman who came all the way down. His mission in life was to deliver fresh produce all along the Oregon coast to the people who weren't getting it. And so he lived up in like Yahats, up in that way. I can't remember the name of the town. And I lived down in Coos Bay and North Bend. And once a week, he would drive his food truck over to my house, and there'd be 8 of my girlfriends there buying food for their entire families. So this guy would come down and bring us $1,000 worth of produce. And we'd pay him, and he'd go on his way and come see you next week. It was a beautiful thing. And then, when, like I said, we got United Natural Foods involved in that too, and started buying absolutely everything I could buy at the grocery store. I could buy through my food buying club and save 50%. It's simple and it's easy to do. I mean, if you need to get a hold of me, you can reach me at walknred@gmail.com. Send me a note, and I'll teach you how to do it, because, like I said, I raised 3 children organically, totally healthy, never been to MDs, and I believe that, taking them to Sweat Lodge, taking them to Sundance, feeding them great food, showing them how to be good human beings. They're good human beings now, and I know that they're out walking the planet, and I don't have to worry about the behavior or what they're doing or how they're treating people, because I know that, they have good heads on their shoulders. because, they were fortunate enough to eat good diets. And I think that, there was a long time when I was in a real bad way and didn't have a whole lot of money. And I'm grateful for the time that the government, spent the year and a half supporting me. And I'm grateful for that time. And I'm glad that they're to help people. I hope that people can learn that they don't need to stay there. It's not a way of life. It's just a temporary movement. But even through those hard times in my life, I still made the choices to feed my children, organically and things in a good way. And we were talking earlier about how, do we keep our senses and remember being good human beings. Having been, like I said, a single mom raising all those kids, it was pretty easy for us to keep our life simple because I didn't really have any other choice. I mean, I went to Sundance. I went to Sweat Lodge every Friday. I went to Humbleche, and, those things were free. I didn't have to pay to go there. And I was able to bring my kids. So while I was learning the red road, so were my children. And they, for us, it became a way of life, and that's just what you did. And when you get a group of lodge brothers and people around you, they help you with absolutely everything that you could possibly need. Those have been my experiences in the lodge. If you need something, you just say so, and then next thing you know, you have it. And it doesn't always matter. If we make better choices with our money and how we spend it, then we can help to cut down on the things that we feel in our hearts are hurting the earth. If we go to the local farmer, then that cuts down on the big, massive farmers. We get local dairy. All those things matter, and I think that we forgot to teach our children. Our mothers were so busy, being moms because the first time in their lives they got to go to work and it wasn't a problem. And I think a lot of us didn't get taught other than to, but we didn't stay in hotels. We camped. We had fun outside.
That's exactly how I spent my childhood. We were like totally poor, but we went on family, camping trips and fished and, did all the nature stuff. I was lucky. I was really lucky.
I think it was lucky then too. Absolutely. I mean, I'd rather do that than I see some of the kids and what they do now. It saddens my heart, and I just want everybody to know that cell phone radiation. I mean, I have my headphones on and my phone's in the earth right now, as opposed to being in my pocket, because the radiation that comes out of those things, that's not good for us.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing too is the kids don't pay attention to what's going on with them. They're not building awareness with the environment changing. I mean, that's the one thing, like I tell people, I've been living, basically kind of out of my car since 2006. And there are a lot of reasons, things that happened. And at first it was really difficult, but the longer I've done it, the more grateful I am. The less stuff I need. People are always trying to give me stuff, and it's like, okay, well, I don't have any more room in my van, so I can't take that. Give it to find somebody else, and try to keep things as simple as possible. I find I need a lot less. And the other thing I really like about it is, when the morning comes up and the sun comes up, I know it. I am woken up by it. And if it's windy outside, while I'm sleeping in my van is rocking back and forth, and some people would take it as some kind of annoyance, but sometimes I feel like I'm a little baby in a little rocker, and that's kind of like how I perceive it, that I'm being comforted by these things, instead of that they're a nuisance, or, I'm living in some dwelling that, doesn't allow me to have a relationship with things that are going on outside, and the awareness of, looking at the sky and seeing the different clouds. And sometimes there's chemtrails, and those are disturbing days for me, when I see that kind of stuff. But at least I'm awake and I'm aware and I'm paying attention, and I do the best I can. And I like cold temperatures. And then when it warms up, I mean, nothing is better than, being chilly and then going out. As soon as you wake up, I get out of the van and I go sit on the the sand and with my coffee, and the sun starts to warm me up. And I think for me, those are like the little treasures of life. Is seeing
150 years ago, that's what it was. That was life.
Yeah.
Think about it. That was life. That's what we did 200 years ago. We didn't, we just sat down and, watched the sun come up and maybe plant a little garden and watch it grow and run around with the kids and teach them how to shoot a bow and an arrow and how to sow the ground. Sow, is that right? Sow the ground? Like with a hoe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, the other thing too, I just love is, when you're a lot of the stuff with the native way, walking I try, because I'm white and I don't want to offend anybody who's native, so I always try not to offend anybody. So I call it the red road. I don't call it the Indian road because I'm not Indian. And I don't want people to think like I'm trying to be, something I'm not. So, because people get really kind of angry about this kind of stuff. But one of the things I really appreciate about the native way is the prayer work. Whether it's offerings or pipe or sometimes, just giving simple prayer. And because everything receives a prayer, not just things you're worried about or that you're trying to find a solution for, but you're constantly honoring and respecting and using prayer. And the other thing too, I love about native prayer, it's not trying to manifest anything, and it's not trying to conjure anything or using to get what you want out of it. It's always this is I'm praying Creator, grandmothers and grandfathers, for example, one of my friends, I call him the young medicine man, but he always prays when he has conflict with other people that, that the Creator help him to restore his right mind and align it with his right heart in a good way, and that the other person have the same thing, But he's always he always adds in there that I know that, you know what's right, Creator, because you're the creator of all things. So I'm just going to leave it there. Thank you. So always asking for the correction to happen to yourself first without demand or, trying to manifest things, because some of the new age stuff gets kind of that way. And just leaving it and allowing spirit to take care of it for you. You just gently state kind of what you'd like to happen, and you take responsibility in the situation and then make the prayer.
Yeah.
And I really love that because it gets away from, you're right, I'm, they're wrong, this is bad. It gets away from a lot of that kind of stuff, and it just leaves it open. I think sometimes too, like when you pray in a native way, you get a faster response, because I think that you're just putting it out there to, your relations and the spirits, in the area, whether that's a plant or a tree or all those things, and the grandmothers and grandfathers and the directions, and you just put it out there, and then they come together and they work it out. They help you to work it out instead of telling them what to do or how to do it or making demands.
I need this right now.
Yeah, and if you don't give it to me,
I think God's mad at me.
I know. Yeah.
It's funny that, there's a girl I knew, her name is Cassie. She walks another plane now. But this girl was the best prayer that I ever heard in my life. When she would sit down and pray in the lodge, I would do nothing but cry. I mean, her prayers were so heartfelt and so deep and so real and so sincere. And never once did I hear that girl pray for herself. Not one time. And that was years before I ever picked up the Chanupa and, decided that other people's lives were more important than mine. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, my life is important too, and I know that. And I have my own mission and my journey and the reason why I'm here. And I'm here to help everybody else to get what they need and to be a good human being and help them. And I know, because I help the people, the Creator smiles down on me and gives me absolutely anything I ask for. But like I said, I don't ask for things from the Creator. I think about things that I'd like to have, and then they show up. Because when I'm in prayer, I pray for the people, and I pray for the animals and the planet and the people in charge, those that are, that we allow to make decisions for us. My brother says I'm a good prayer. And it makes me laugh to think that somebody would think that one person was a better prayer than the other. In the Indian way, a lot of times we're sitting there and when we're praying, we'll be suffering around for a long time. We might be in the middle of a lodge. We're not. It could be 115 degrees in there. And you're trying not to be too hot, and you're trying to accept this love and energy from the Creator and the history of our grandfathers, the stones. And sometimes you get in there and you want to pray really fast. And, we're taught that the Creator wants to hear our voice. And that even if we don't get to speak our voice, He still hears us when we think. And that if we take a moment to ask the Creator to help our relatives, to help the earth and the animals on it, so that, that our world might continue. If we ask the Creator to help us to make decisions that will support future generations and that are that of His will. So when we are praying, if we're more conscious about what it is we're asking for versus what we think we need, because, we always get what we need. Creator's not going to leave us high and dry on anything. And if we don't think we need more, then that's what the Creator will give us, what we don't think we need. So, be conscious and aware of your thoughts while you are praying, because, we think a lot more than we ask for. And if we're just clear and open and honest and ask for what's necessary and not for what's new on the block, things that, didn't even exist 3 weeks ago. Like Jack Johnson said, now we got to have it. I think he wrote a song like that.
Yep. Yep. No, that's good. It's all good. I was just thinking too, prayer also includes, because it's good to have conversations like this, because there are a lot of people who are interested in Indigenous people, and their traditions and things like that. And since sometimes we're not having an open conversation or dialogue about these kinds of things openly, then people don't understand, and they don't gain the knowledge, and they can't make proper decisions about how that's going to reflect in their life and change their mind about some things and change their heart. So one of the things I was one of my teachers, my native teachers, he used to explain to us about the drum and the song. And I have a drum, and I'm a terrible drummer. I wish I was better. I can't seem to get the beats down, and I always feel like I'm going to curse. If there's a song going on and I participate with it, trying to do my drum beats, I always feel like I'm going to curse it all just because it's so bad. And then I'm also terrible with trying to, do a lot of the singing. I'm just really bad at that as well. So, but he was always told me that it was in the more ancient ways, that the drumming and the song, he called the language, the native languages, the sing-songy languages. That's what he called them, the sing-songies. And so even when they were communicating in their own languages, it was more like a song. It was like more of a reflection of a song. So he was talking about how in the really old times, that the plants each knew, all the insects knew. We're going to go to commercial. We'll be right back in 4 minutes.
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
Enter into a world unseen on Raven Star's Witching Hour. You will encounter eclectic topics from the realm of spirit brought into our matrix of truth. With your host, the Solaris Blue Raven. Solaris will bring you an array of unique guests covering topics from ghostly spirits to amazing anomalies, covert technology, UFOs, and shadowy global events.
And that's right here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, Saturdays midnight till 2 a.m. Eastern Time. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Let the magic rise.
This is Barbara DeLong, host of Nightlight Radio, inviting you to join me on a cosmic journey, exploring a metaphysical montage of spiritual material, covering everything from the mundane to the magical, UFOs to unicorns, and everything in between, including spiritual readings for those who seek enlightenment. Let Nightlight provide you with equal measure of light, love and laughter, insight, wisdom, and inspiration. Monday nights, 10 to 12 p.m. Eastern, right here on Studio B, Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com.
The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Hey there, everybody. It's Carrying Stones and Digging Holes radio show on Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. And we are here with my guest, Jules Brecke. And as we went into commercial, I was just kind of talking about drumming and what my teacher taught me about drumming, and that it was a way that it's used in ceremony, but also it's used in prayer. And that it's also used to communicate with all your relatives, which are considered the plants and the grasses and the insects, and that each song would have like a different frequency that also could actually activate healing. And I had another teacher who actually had, because, a lot of people don't really understand a lot of this stuff, but one of my other teachers who passed in June 2016, he had been in a major car accident that had actually damaged the bottom three lower vertebrae, and he went to one of the medicine men for the tribe who specifically used drum to do prayer work and heal people of just about everything. And he was taken to the hospital, and he had to call his people, his family, to come and get him out of the hospital because he didn't want the kind of treatment that they were going to be giving him, with pain pills and things like that. So he, his people came and got him from the hospital, and then they took him to this Shoshone medicine man who did drum work. And within an hour and a half of this medicine person using the drum and using the frequencies of the drum, which are the beats and songs and everything, towards the injured area. And he had like 3 majorly cracked lower vertebrae from this accident. And within an hour and a half, the drum work had completely penetrated the skin and the bone and completely healed the fractures in the vertebrae completely 100%. And he ended getting up and he walked out of his treatment and never had another problem from his lower back ever again. So, yeah. So, anyways.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, some of these tools that are used.
When the native people sing, every song they sing is a prayer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, every single song is a prayer for someone or something. A lot of them are grateful thank you songs.
Yeah, and a lot of...
I think that's what happens to most of us, is we forget to be grateful. We forget to say thank you for all the things that we do have, other than just asking, praying, asking for, what we want, instead of going, hey, look at all these wonderful things that you've given me. Look at how wonderful my life is, and my children are healthy, and I have a car that works, gets me from here to there, everywhere I need to go. I have shoes on my feet. I'm not addicted to any drugs, and I'm grateful for that. I believe that's,
yeah,
that we should be more grateful instead of asking, look around at what the things that we have, and recognize the fact that we don't need anything. And when we sing these songs, we let the Creator know how grateful we are for the animals, for the corn, for the pine nuts, how grateful we are for the buffalo and the 4-legged ones and the birds. It's just like you said, there's a song for all of them. I'm sure there's a million songs that I don't even know. I mean, I didn't start out knowing any songs. I didn't start out knowing how to drum. I mean, I was taught. People they took pity on me, and they laughed at me for years. They still laugh at me when I drum, but I don't care, because, hey, that's part of my medicine, is making people laugh. I'm okay with that. But yeah, singing, when I was learning how to sing, Uncle taught me how to sing, and he came over Tuesdays and Thursdays for years while I was in the middle of my Sundance commitment, and we would gather at my auntie's house, and Grandpa Hillman was there too. He would come, and these guys would work with me all the time, and he said, hey, just learn the thing. You'll understand what they mean later, because he always said that Creator would just let me know what the songs meant, and all I had to do was learn them. And Uncle was right, because once I learned the songs, I knew what they meant. And, when you're out there singing in the Indian world, like, I said earlier, they have a hard enough time getting along with each other. And, people always try to correct you when you're singing. And, I mean, that's okay, as long as you're not accepting the road as a lead singer. The Creator just wants to hear you sing. Like I said earlier, he just wants to hear your voice, to hear you sing, to hear you ask for what you need and what you're grateful for. If we don't, get out there, he's not going to know. And some of the songs are, I've heard singers that just sing so beautifully, they just, that I stop singing because they sing so beautifully. I think, God, why should I even bother? However, at the same time, I know that the Creator wants to hear my voice too, and everybody else's voice as well. So when I hear people sing, I just let them sing, and no matter if they're singing correctly or wrong, especially if we're in ceremony, if we are, sitting around a practice drum, and we're just, chit-chatting and practicing, and we're not asking for any prayers, so we're just trying to get our songs right, then I might say, hey, Bridget, haha, good way to sing that. Try this way instead, maybe, But I would never put anybody down for their singing, because that's their voice, and that's how they're going to sing to Creator. And who am I to tell them they're singing it wrong?
Yeah.
So I hope that next time you sing, you don't feel so bad. I don't want you to feel bad or walk away from this conversation not feeling good about your singing, because you're singing, you're singing, and nobody, like I said, if you're in ceremony and you're singing, sing your little heart out. Creator knows, who are you singing to? Creator or the people in ceremony?
Yeah.
You're singing to Creator.
I really like to learn some more songs about, earth songs and plant songs and insect songs and things like that, because I want to be able to do, more, like, before I start to work with the soil come spring, be able to sing to it, and,
Right.
be able to talk to it and tell it, the things that I need. Because I've been around some old school Native people, and, the old school way would be, say they're going to go pine nut harvest. Well, first they have to wait for the sign, which is the rabbit brush blooms, right? So they get the sign, right? So
First frost, yeah.
Yeah, the rabbit brush is the relative who's, calling them, saying, hey, it's time. Pine nut seeds are ready. It's time to get in there. And then, they would do whatever it is, whatever they were going to go look for or harvest, especially root plants that are harder to find, out that they're looking for, medicine plants, they would do their songs and prayers at their home before they ever embark. And then they wait for the plants to communicate back. Yep, we're here, we're ready. And sometimes that's kind of a multi-dimensional thing, right? Sometimes that's a message that they might get in a dream, or it might get a direct message through somebody else, or something that has to do with this plant trying to communicate back. So when the corn got mailed to me in the mail, when Greg, the sacred seed guy, sent them to me, I had forgotten that they were coming in the mail, and I woke up at like 2:00 in the morning, and I thought it was a mosquito that was buzzing my head. And when I sat up, I could hear Native people, like the ancestors, singing. I mean, we're talking men and women, and they were just going for it. And I mean, it was just like, crazy. And I laid down, and I was like, okay, I'm going back to sleep. And I was talking to a friend of mine who's Native, and she said, oh, didn't Greg send you those seeds in the mail? And I said, yeah. She said, well, they're doing the ceremonies for you to receive them. I was like, all righty then. I don't know if I wanted that kind of responsibility, but, and so, they came in kind of a different kind of way. So when you start doing these prayers and for me, what I'm learning is you do the drumming and everything else, and then you do the ceremony, to approach the medicine, because that's what I look at these seeds, and everything else is medicine. All the bugs that come to my garden and participate. This year, I can't even tell you what the corn and the native beans and the native sorghum and the native Hopi seeds that I grew and all these native plants. I had like this unbelievable ecosystem. I had dragonflies and damselflies, like mists of them. I'd walk across the grass and there would be clouds of them. I've had praying mantises in there. All kinds of wasps and bees, and it has, created like a major, like all I can say is activation, that all of these insects would come to and have really flocked to.
On the day that I met you and you were showing me the harvest, remember I go, did you hear that? Because they were singing to me too.
Yeah.
But not the seeds were singing to me. The plants were singing after you had planted them. I heard them singing. Remember when I go, oh, they got to be singing a corn song, because I don't know a corn song.
Right. I don't speak that language.
I'm not sure what they're singing. I don't know a corn song. And I just, in my heart, I felt it was a corn song because it was the corn, right? And They were trying to teach me something.
Yeah, they're like,
That was
"Hi, we're
great.
introducing ourselves to you."
Hello, we'll talk to you later.
Yeah. So, sometimes when
Yeah.
people are, some of the more traditional, they have the ceremonies and the songs where they connect with the medicine that they're going to be needing. And then when they get the right time and they get the signs and they go to look for that medicine, and sometimes things can hide from you. That's one of the things that one of my teachers said, like, if you don't approach, you don't have a relationship with that relative, you don't have a relationship with that root, and you go out looking for it, it will hide from you.
True.
And so you have to, make the prayers and all of these kinds of things to have and build a friendship with it so that it can be part of your family. It can be part of your medicine that you can carry forth. So, and then, once you collect.
Yeah, and it's real simple. All you got to do is ask.
Yeah. And ask permission. Hi,
ask
can I be your
permission.
friend? Hi, I would like to use you in a medicine way. Hi, may I have teachings?
Next thing you know, they're changing colors right in front of your eyes.
No,
no mistake happens if you do something with intent. And I mean, and I think that goes in all directions.
Yeah, no, that's it.
But in the native way, that's what I've been taught the most, is that you always ask. Ask. I mean, even to buy something is, do I have permission to buy this? Is,
Yeah.
I think nowadays as human beings, we just assume that because it's there in the store and it's available or it's in front of us that we're entitled to it.
Yeah, and the other thing
Yeah.
I think a lot about too. One of my teachers that passed in June 2016, he used to always tell me that we have to be really careful about what and stay away from praying, at people of what we think that they need, and thus giving them things that they need, and actually just praying about how you could help that person, and then wait for the information to come, and then be able to help them in a better way. That so your mind isn't wrapped around what you think they need based out of.
Right, because we don't know what they need. Only Creator knows what they need.
Right. So whether we're going to
only Creator knows what they need. Because I think that we have the possibilities to create things for other human beings.
I'm way better at creating things for other people than myself.
Well, I mean, that's because you're a muse.
I'm a what?
That's a muse.
Oh yeah. Sometimes.
A muse creates things for other people.
Yeah.
But the other people know, right, that you're creating it for them. And that's a different situation. You know what I mean? I could pray for something for you that could bring you the worst of luck at all.
Yeah.
Why would I want that to happen? That would be me assuming that I know everything that you need, but I don't. So if I wanted to pray for you, I would ask the Creator simply to smile down on you and bless you with the things that you need, because I don't know what they are.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the thing.
I just.
Yeah. No, that's perfect, because that's what my teacher used to say, is that you have to be careful not to curse somebody else based on your assessment of their life and what you think that they need. And sometimes it's better to just say, hey, let me be a conduit, or if I can help, and look down on this person and give them what they need, and then just step away and just see what happens, and then see if you need to participate anymore. But you'll know.
Right, exactly. I mean, especially if you put it out there that way, you got to be very careful about how you put your prayers out. I mean, be specific. If you're specific, like one time, I mean, I think that there's an element of creating, okay, like me consciously creating something to happen. That is not me asking the Creator for something. Understand? Does that make sense?
Say it one more time.
That when I consciously create something on my own, okay, that's not me asking the Creator for help. That's me creating something. Like, for example, when I was a young girl, I lived on Maui, and I used to ride my bicycle on Pualani Highway every single day from the salon that I worked at to the restaurant that I worked at. And I'd look up at the mountain every single day and I'd go, I want to live up there, you know? And I'd ride the other 10 miles and I'd ride back home and I'd go, I want to live up there. Well, 3 years of saying, I want to live up there, all of a sudden I got a phone call. And I said, and the girl says, hey, my name is Auntie Dolly, and I heard you might want to live in my property. And I'm like, I'm in, I want to be there. And I believe that I created that. I did, because I thought about that so much, I was able to bring it about. Now, when I asked the Creator to smile down on me when I was on my way to the hospital to have a baby, you know, after living a life as a midwife and having babies at home, and I'm going to the hospital to have a C-section, I asked the Creator to bless this C-section ceremony with a doctor who had skilled hands. That was me asking for a specific prayer for my daughter that was in my belly so that she could get out. Okay, so somehow, you know, that worked out well. We had a wonderful doctor. He helped her out. And she's 13 years old, running around like a 13-year-old, doing all those things she does. But I asked the Creator to help me. I prayed for that to be okay. So I think I was specific about my prayers, about what I needed on that day going into surgery and what I wanted to have happen, knowing that I was leaving the coziness of my house where, you know, we had done ceremony and, you know, it wasn't working out. So I had to go to the hospital and make that happen.
Yeah, no, I totally get all that. But thank you for explaining it so our listeners can understand, right?
Right, yeah, because, I mean, there is the power of our own creation that we can create and do whatever we want. However, you know, if we want to live humble lives and be good human beings, I don't know, I like to live with the things that I believe that the Creator wants me to have. And when I wake up in the morning, I'll, you know, walk outside with a glass of water and thank the Creator for the day and smile down on the people that need the help and heal the people that He needs to have healed so that the people don't have to suffer so much. You know, people are suffering way too much. And I don't think that's okay.
I agree.
And, you know, the people, you know, I mean, I hope that the people understand that when, you know, you hear about people who are sun dancers and ghost dancers, when they're out there praying, they're praying for you. They're praying for your relatives. I'm praying for your relatives. I'm praying for you. When I go out there, I pray for your pets and your people and your doctors and your situations, that the Creator smile down on them so that, you know, the things that we have to do bring us about better human beings. I mean, that's how I put my prayers out there. Because, you know, we all need to be better human beings.
Yeah, no, it's so true. I was just thinking about, I love I think it's the fancy dancers. I love their costumes the most because, you know, the men wear the headgear that has the grasses and it's for the insects and the grasses and stuff like that. And then they get out there and they do all the, you know, circles and the dance and everything, you know, to help those beings, you know, to help
the fancy dancers. Yeah.
You know, they're really working with those insects and grasses and, you know, all those plants and things like that, you know, and I just think that's just, sometimes people don't really understand, you know, like some of the costumes and not costumes, but they're actually medicine, right? They're handmade medicine, right? That the person wears and he transforms.
Those are the ones. Absolutely. When you get into, you know, ceremonies that are public like that, then they, you know, they're still handmaking. All their dresses are all handmade. And, you know, I was taught that we put our prayers into our dresses, every stitch, things like that. I hope that, you know, that they carry on that tradition too.
Yeah. And then, you know, they're doing activations too. I mean, they're spinning this way and they're doing this way and they're jumping up and down and they're sending out signals in their right mind and in their right heart. And it's just like beating a drum, you know, and there are drums with songs that go along with some of these dances. that help to heal, and their prayers and medicines that are going out by the jumping and the movements and all the things swinging and everything that's going on. They have medicine just flying off in all directions. They're just like going for it. And I just love that. My favorite, have you seen Superman? I always try to get him on the show. Superman. He's from
No, I don't think so.
I think he's Crow, and he's from Montana. And if you get a chance, look him up on YouTube. I'll send you a link, but he is so amazing because he's got his, he does his, native gear, but then he's also a rapper, and he's just amazing, like performer and the things that he does. And he just really gets his, he gets his native outfit on, and he is just so amazing on so many levels. He just is like activating and his prayers, and he's just such an amazing guy. But I love him.
Right on.
I'm like a super fan. He's probably like, oh no, that creepy white woman again. No. I'm just kidding.
Doing to me?
I know.
Stalker.
I know. No, I used to for a long time be like, hey, could you come on my radio show?
I got the privilege to sit at the feet of some, I don't know, what I thought were pretty cool people, human beings in my world. And, Wallace Black Elk was one of them. And, he said that, and he said some really profound things to me about, being a good human being, that it didn't matter what color your skin was, And then I had another teacher who one time told me, he said that, being Native American is a way of life, I was born an Indian, you know what I'm saying? I guess you could say I was born a Native American, or either way, but that to walk that way is a way of life. It's something you choose. It's not the color of your skin. So, I know a lot of Buddhists who, were born in China.
Yeah.
Right. So it's
right.
like, it's just, it's a discipline that, you're going to choose a discipline and live it. I mean, that's basically what it is. And
yeah, that's the thing is I always keep coming back to, because I'm pretty sure that my great grandmother was Native. I don't know how much Native she was, but she was an incredible medicine woman. She was kind of like one of my first teachers. And I remember when she decided her spirit left her body, and then her body lived in a home, but she had this really big, thick, massive hair, and it was like all white, and we let it grow way past her thing. But she would sing, like in this other language. That's all she did when she was awake, was this other language.
Right on.
Yeah, and I just remember all of the things that she taught me, and all of that stuff. And every time it's interesting because, I think you kind of know, like with the Red Road, like I always keep coming back to it, now I'm solid on it. I'm 100% solid. But, I dabbled in other things in my life, tried to go learn this or learn that, or, hung out with the Sikhs, or, you know what I mean? Like all just kinds of different people, just trying to gather information and knowledge. And for me, like the thing that brings everything together in my whole life, whether I'm growing food or I'm handling seeds or I'm managing my dog, or, I'm working on a horse, or I'm walking out in the desert, or I'm driving a car, or I go to the grocery store, or I'm picking out food, or I'm cooking. It's kind of like, for me, like walking the path, everything on it, or praying for other people, or whatever is happening, it's all the same thing. And the way that I'm there with it all, right? All of it happening, which makes this a lot, it's hard to have a vocabulary for it, but which means that, like I try to be, my goal is to constantly be in a state of, ceremony. This year, 2018, every year I kind of pick, a topic that I really, really want to work on. And I usually like pray a lot before the new year comes, right? And, and this year was ceremony, like I really want to move my life towards everything when I'm asleep, when I'm awake, becomes an act of ceremony, and it doesn't have to be complicated or anything like that. And then this is the year that the native seeds came to me, that they wanted to meet me, work with me. And so it really started to see living in ceremony means that everything that you're going to need for that work is going to show up. And all you have to do is follow along, and just keep
Exactly.
moving along down the road. And this year's kind of been a tough year. There's been a lot of tough lessons this year, and a lot of drama that I've had to kind of put away, and learning to kind of, in a nice, good way, talk to people about their drama that's radiating from them, and trying to help them with the drama, and they either can get it or they can't get it, and then trying to keep a lot of other things, my focus, off the drama and more towards the ceremony, like living my life kind of in a ceremony, where you look at water and you pour yourself a glass of water, like you said, and you think, wow, what a beautiful day. You know what I mean? Pour yourself a nice glass of water. You're like, oh, thank you so much for this awesome water. May people all over the world have access, to beautiful, clean, precious water. And then, get on with the next thing that you're going to do, or you're going to cook a meal. Like today, I'm kind of emotional about my chili today. But, well, I knew I had to harvest corn yesterday, and so I've been planning to harvest it in conjunction with making kind of more of a native type chili that, has some, bison burger in it. And I soaked the beans and all these different things, and then, bringing these components together. But the main ingredient was a few of the native corns that I'm going to cut the corns off and put into the chili because I feel like I needed to honor that corn by ingesting it, you know what I mean? And then offering it to whoever shows up today. And so kind of like that is the idea of the ceremony, where I'm grateful and thankful and making sure that, I honor the things that are helping me with learning more about being in a constant flow of ceremony. And it's not easy. There are things that happen that pull you they hook you and pull you off, and you kind of shake your head off and you're going, whoa, all right, get both feet back on the path, right? Get my prayers in order. I got kind of pulled off for a few minutes, and then I'm going to get back on.
Oh my God, look at what I've created.
Eek! I know.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to love myself anyway.
Yeah. That's the thing. I could always get back on, right? You could always get back on the horse. You can always get back where you need to go, or, where you need to be. And that's the other thing too. I really appreciate the things that I learn from the Red Road and the people that come, because all that matters is right now. I think it's the only spiritual process or practice that I've ever learned where I'm not having to do anything or project anything or anything else. All I have to do is be in the here and now and open my eyes, look around. How do I feel? What's going on? Where am I at? And participate with it from that perspective. When I've gone to do advanced, meditation work. Okay. You can only hold these postures, over the next 5 hours, and you have to sit in lotus, and you have to do this, and you have to do that. And, there's all this technical stuff that you have to get right. So, that it seems like, and walking the path, I never feel any of that. Right. It's more like, wake up.
It depends on, how deep into ceremony you want to go. If you put yourself in a situation where it's, you're offering somebody tobacco and putting in a 4-year commitment, then yeah, absolutely. It's all about the rules. It's all about, what you take in and how you pray and how you walk and where you look and what you don't look and what you dress and what you say and what you don't say, I mean, yeah, there's definitely etiquette to being, sun dancing and sweat lodge. There's etiquette, but in general, it's just like be a good human being. I mean, I always appreciate it when people come into the lodge and, and they're 100%, respectful to the ways. And if you want to, participate in the ways and get the best connection that you could possibly get with the Creator, then my suggestion would always be to follow the oldest of ways, to not question them.
Yeah.
If somebody opens up their lodge to you, then, don't try to bring something else into it, honor what's there. I mean, that's why you're there, to learn.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that.
Indian people are okay with their trip. They're okay with it. You don't see them going out, and most Indian people, they're okay.
Yeah.
They don't need any more information. Well, I mean, they're always welcome information. I mean, I don't want to sound that I don't appreciate the information, but here's what I wanted to say, because something you were saying had brought this to mind. My young daughter, her father is Christian, so she, goes that way a lot. And, a lot of times she'll come this way in being Native American, and the older she gets, and even when she was younger, I mean, it was a struggle for her, and it still is. She's got, two parents that walk two different directions. And, this was a guy that I had met at the Sundance ceremony at Sweat Lodge, so like, he was a white guy stepping into my world. And, that was okay. I mean, but, it really wasn't his world, so he didn't last very long in it. And so, when he went back to the Christian way, it was hard for his daughter to understand because, the Indian way is where she was created. And so, trying to explain it to a little girl about what's going on and all these different, places and directions. I mean, we always talk about the four directions in the Native tradition. There's no doubt about that. But we don't often talk about the four directions in between every direction, those directions. And, when the Creator smiled down on us and he sent his white buffalo calf with, and he also sent us Jah and Judas and the Wainikia, the one they called Jesus, and all these other people from all these different directions. And to explain it to somebody like that, I mean, he had such a great message of love and kindness and being a good human being that he couldn't have one human being tell everybody. I mean, that would take forever. The message, I mean, would still be talking about, what, so unfortunately, not everybody got the message, so they tried to separate the messengers into different sectors or religions or whatever you want to call them. But really, they were just messengers that came down along with all the messengers. White buffalo calf of them, like I was saying, came to the native people. And Jah and Buddha, and everybody came from a different direction. And when, I explained that to my daughter, about how the Creator just wanted everybody to know, and since he created so many people in so many different directions, he had to send people that could carry that message and explain it to the people in their own language. And, sometimes people got a little carried away and had their own little power of control into that. And, and now it's just big giant mess, and everybody wants to step on everybody else and pretend that they're better instead of admitting to the fact that we're all equal. We're all here. We're all human. We all walk this earth mother, and it's our job to take care of that. And I don't care to whom or to how you pray. If you're being a good human being, if you're raising your kids, you're taking care of them, you're not hurting them, you're respecting your elders, you're being respectful of the land and, what you do to it and what you put on it, and, respectful to your own body and what you're choosing to put into it. I mean, those are the things that matter. That's what matters. Doesn't matter what color your skin is or what direction you choose to walk, as long as the direction that you're walking turns you into a good human being. And I find that, walking this way, the Indian way, has brought me to being a good human being, because when I walked a different direction, and I, like yourself, I checked them all out. I also, got the opportunity in my 20s to meet this man named Oscar Ichazo, and he was a hardcore metaphysicist. Like, I'm talking hardcore. He had a school called Akura or something like that. And, in his school, you had to have a 5-year commitment. And we're talking about people who, studied all different other kinds of things, but at the same time, every one of them that I met were good human beings. And they knew that, walking lightly on the earth, being responsible for the things that you throw on it or what you do to it. I mean, those are the things that matter. And those are the things that are going to change the world, because if we realize that as human beings we need less and less and less, then our earth is going to survive. Because right now, human beings just think they need everything, and we don't need that. We don't need it.
Yeah, getting back, yeah. No, I agree with everything that you said. I mean,
Sorry, I went off on a little tangent there.
No, that's what you're on the radio for, right? So you can have your own little tangents.
That's all I have to say about that. Ask me something else.
I know, yeah.
I do real good with, hey, Jules, tell me about this.
Yeah, well, this is the thing is, like, that's why, I love to have a radio show and different people on, because I just love everybody's different perspective. And, the other thing, too, I have to tell people is I usually have people on the show that there's something about them that I really appreciate and want to know more about. And sometimes, like, say, for example, I'm trying to get a hold of somebody. I mean, some of these people out there would never talk to me by email because they're too busy. But I say, hey, would you like to come on my radio show? And they're like, well, yeah. And then I can, like, talk to them. So sometimes it's a little bit selfish, it's all about me. No, I'm just kidding. But just getting them on my show and having conversations about different kinds of things. I remember I had a conversation with a Native friend of mine, and I was asking him, like, how he has the most amazing partner. She's Washoe, and she just is the most amazing person. And he's like Washoe Paiute, and he's just such an amazing person, just so good at prayer and just incredible. But one day I had a really long conversation with them just about, more of like Indian politics. And there was a story she was telling me about her daughter, and when her daughter was like in the second grade, because she was going to white school, and they had like a really older lady, teacher, white, and she's, talking about Christopher Columbus and all this other stuff. And her daughter, she raised her daughter, to know what was kind of the truth of history and what was not the truth of history. And she said her little daughter stood up and she told the teacher, like, hey, that's a lie. Christopher Columbus, that is a lie, and I'm not going to sit here, she was in second grade, and I'm not going to sit here and listen to you lie about my people, and that man, slaughtered us all, and he murdered our people, and she just went on and on and on. Anyway, she ended up getting expelled from that school, because, she just kind of, was standing in her Indian self, like she was standing in her pride and what the truth was. And they were always talking about, like, when they were raised in the white school and Thanksgiving came around, and it was very tough on them because of, how Native people were portrayed. And so they, to this day, they said that, they don't really participate in Thanksgiving and stuff like that because it's there's been a little bit of trauma that comes along with that kind of a situation, kind of a thing. But one of the things I asked him, I was talking to him and I said, hey, so how do you guys deal with, things like Jesus? And he said, well, this is kind of like how we deal with it. In the story, he said, because, it's all about the story. He said,
it's all about the story.
It's all about the story. The teachings are all about the story. He said, in the story, Jesus died for his people. And he says, as Indian people, that is what we would do. If we could put our life to save somebody else's life, that is exactly what we would do. And so from that perspective, we acknowledge and honor and respect the story of Jesus, that he would die for his own people. And I always think about that.
They called him the Wainikia.
Yeah. And that
Wainikia.
Yeah, so he put himself, he put, like you were saying it earlier in the show, you put everybody else first and in front of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you pick up that chanupa, it's for life. It certainly, has blessed my world, and I certainly, I get to have a lot of fun, and I'm grateful for that. And I think I get to have fun because, I help people, and that the Creator smiles back, because I don't just say, hey, well, I'm going to do this for you. I mean, 88% of the time, I'm a really good human being. However, there's probably, a good 17% of the time that I'm not, and that other 1% I'm, in limbo.
Yeah. Well, the other thing
do now, and
yeah, for our listeners, like when you carry the sacred pipe, it's like a lifetime commitment. It's a huge commitment to take that medicine, and be available for all the prayers that need to happen, and making yourself available for all of it.
For everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, people call me all the time and ask me for things, and if I can give them the things, I will. If not, then I'll ask the Creator to smile down on them. And people call me all the time for prayers, and I'm open for that, because that's my job. That's what I do.
Mm-hmm.
It's what I agreed and accepted to do that. And at the same time, I honor in the fact of being a good human being, and hopefully I could be a living example of what that is. And maybe when I die, people say, oh, that Jules, what a nice girl she was. What a good human being. She hardly said any mean things about anybody,
Yeah.
Did you know that I do stand-up?
No, you were telling me that.
That's part of me that I never got into yet. As I like I said, I do a lot of ceremonies in the past, and I still do them now. But in the past, when I would finish my ceremony, then you have a giveaway. Is still part of your ceremony. Is the giveaway part. So my giveaway part was my stand-up act, and my stage name is Smokahannes. And I don't know how many Native American comedians there are out there that are women. I don't know. I've never seen one, so I'm sure there are other funnier girls than me. But I get up there and I talk about, being on Humbleche and, trying to fight off the mosquitoes and, doing crazy jokes like that. So when I go to give away, the things that I have to give back to the people is my humor. And so, I guess I bring that up because, some people have a lot of money to give back to the people. They support hospitals and, quests like yours, and, they support other people with their cash donations. And, if that's what you can do to help the people survive, then, I ask that you help Bridgette to continue on with this show. And, if all you have to give somebody is laughter, then, keep up your good humor, make people laugh, because the Creator, when He smiled down on us, He gave us all something. And just recognize that your something isn't what somebody else has, and it never will be. Once you recognize that, then you'll make the whole world smile, and, life will just be so joyous for you all the way. But if you keep trying to, ward off the gifts that the Creator gave you, then, want somebody else's gift, then, that's not a big, quick road to happiness there. All right, that's all I have to say about that.
Well, good. That was good. I love people that have opinions about things. I just love it. Those are the kind of people I like. I'm like, because nothing. Yeah, and it's really, and I'll tell you, because we're a 420 friendly show, so I have lots of guests that are smokosauruses, that come on the show, and they're always like all paranoid. They're like, it's 2 hours, like, how am I going to survive? I'm like, smoke while you're on the show. Just, get a grip. It's not going to be a big deal. But I'll tell you a funny story about when I first met Jules. She came, and they came to help the person who has the property here, paint the property. And that's how I met her. And I was really excited because I kind of like brown people. I think I was born like the wrong color, but I mean, I kind of, sometimes like get closer to people who are have deeper ethnicity, and cultures, and because I'm super interested in that kind of stuff. It's just part of who I am. But anyway, so we were all going to go to breakfast after, And so, this part reminds me, there's a song, Willie Nelson. Oh my God, it's so funny. There's like a few country singers like made this song, and it's like something like, I don't smoke weed with Willie on his bus anymore. Because, the story goes on about like, how they rolled out of the bus, they lost, time, like the
yeah.
So
I've heard that song.
Yeah, I don't smoke weed with Willie anymore. So it's kind of like almost like I don't smoke weed with Jules anymore. No, I'm just kidding. But so she came with her favorite, and we were. She goes, "Oh yeah, try some of this," And so we all like took a couple hits, and then we went over to the restaurant, and I literally don't remember a whole lot from the moment I got into the car. Thank God I was in the back seat. To the whole time at the restaurant, and then on the way back, and then I had to take a 2-hour nap.
Well, that's because it was my medicine.
It was like it knocked me down.
That medicine was for me, and being a Sundancer and a keeping of the pipe. I want to elaborate on that whole ceremony, because that's how I look at it. That's what I think of it. Like I said. I've been to the tree, I've sundanced, and, part of our ceremony is, there's 405 herbs, and we make a stick with a prayer bundle on each one of those, and we dance around it, and we use that for our protection, because we have that understanding that all of these 405 herbs that the Creator put here on the planet are here for us to use. They're our medicine. And that's what it's about. It's for medicine. When my body aches, when things aren't right, when my mind's cluttered, I could take a little bit of medicine, and, it opens it up, and the Creator tells me. And I know that, there's been elders in the past and lots of people who have fought that, for times and times and times. And my point is always, argued that the Creator put that down here. It's not something that, I took from 4 other plants to create something else, because like, how many does it take? Like 1485, I don't know, I'm not a chemist, to make a plastic cup. Okay, but those are all elements that came from the earth, and somebody figured out how to put them together, as to where, the marijuana, it's just an herb on its own. It's a medicine on its own. I frankly think it's just for women, but that's just me.
I frankly think it's just for women.
Because somewhere along the line I was taught that. I really can't remember where I got that information. And, I wish I could remember. And if somebody out there is listening and remembers where I got that information, please let me know.
Please send me a signal. Send me
a signal, light the sky up, will you?
Yeah, send me a signal.
But yeah, but because I've seen what it does to people. I've seen what it's done to men. I see what it does to women. And, I see women by far respond better to it than men do.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway.
because yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that good. I'm glad that you brought that up. So if you're at Sundance, do you put your weed on the stick as part of your medicine out there?
No, when I'm in ceremony, that I don't bring any of that type of medicine there. That's not where that medicine belongs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because if you needed, more of that medicine, most likely you're going to be on your moon anyway, and you wouldn't be in ceremony.
Right. Exactly.
So yeah, I don't believe that's that, or if somebody wanted to term that as a drug, that or any other drug doesn't belong in ceremony.
Exactly.
Or days or weeks before ceremony.
What is it like? It's typically like 3 weeks, isn't it? That you should be clean. I mean,
I hear lots of different stories. Yeah, I hear lots of different stories. But yeah, if you're preparing to go into Sundance, I mean that's a year's worth of preparation.
Yeah.
I mean that's not something you go into lightly. I mean, so then you want to keep your body in its purest form that you possibly could.
Right. Yeah. Well,
during that commitment.
Yeah, because a lot of those ceremonies create altered states already. So you don't need to be in an altered state going into an altered state, because that's where you get hurt, and that's where you hurt other people.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Too many eagle flying by right now.
Too many altered states at once. It's not a good thing. Stay in one.
Yeah, sometimes being right here, right now.
Yeah.
So we had a lot of spirits come by to talk to us so far. We got some hawks flying over right now. And the deer were here, and the rabbits have already been here. Coyote came by.
Yeah.
We've been talking.
Yeah, no, I'm really glad that you could come on the show. We have like about 6 minutes left. So is there any little tangent or anything that you would like to say, or would like to tell a story or leave our listeners with?
Yeah, I do.
On your way out?
Thanks for asking. Yes, I do. Thanks for asking. I just want to, I'd like to put out a little prayer for the people. That's all.
That would be great.
Can you hear the wind blowing behind me?
Uh-huh, yeah.
No? Oh, Tangashula, grandfather, I thank you for this day. Another opportunity to try to get right. I ask you to smile down on Bridgette and all of her listeners and their relatives. I ask that you smile down on the people in charge of making decisions about what's going to happen here on our planet. Touch their hearts so that they remember peace and joy, and that they can bring that to the earth as opposed to blowing it up. I ask Tangashula that you make sure that our food and our waters remain pure and clean, and help to dispose of the things that are hurting and harming our bodies. I ask Tangashula that you smile down on my friend Bridgette here. Give her the things that she needs to support her journey and to carry on and reach the people. I thank you for her. I thank you for this day, this beautiful property that I'm standing on. These oldest of ways, the opportunity to help so many people, grandfather. I thank you for this day, this wind, all of our health in our life, and so much more, grandfather. For this, I am grateful. All I have to offer you on this day is this Sumatra coffee. Takwi, I'll say. Well, that's all I have to say about that.
Any last words? Just any kind of statement. We have 3 minutes left, and then we will be out of here.
Well, I would say, everybody, Bridgette, thank you for allowing me the honor to come out and chat. Like, this is my first phone interview, so thank you for that. And everybody, I want to thank you for being there, for being conscious, for listening, and wanting to change and make this world a greater place. And I want to remind all of you listeners that you are good human beings. And I ask that you live up to that, and that you live up to the thoughts in your head that are clear and pure, and help take care of this, our Earth Mother. I ask that of all you people listening, and I ask that you spread that to your generations and the people that you love, so that we can continue.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So I'm just going to finish up with, this is Carrying Stones and Digging Holes. And that is Jules Brecke, Seneca, and she walks the traditional Lakota path from her teachers. And earlier in the show, she offered her email address. So when you're listening to the archives or whatever, you can go back and find that. And so really appreciative for Jules coming on the show, and just really appreciate different perspective on life and all of that kind of stuff. So I'm carrying stones and digging holes. It's all about ceremony, carrying those stones, digging those holes. And we could also say carrying, it should have been like carrying stones, chopping wood, carrying water, and digging holes, right? All those things are necessary. So, and my show is 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 2 hours. You can find me on freedomslips.com. There's a bio and information on how to connect with me if you want to talk to me in any way, shape, or form. And also, don't forget, we are listener supported in all ways, shapes, or form. And we can't have these interviews, and we can't do the work that all the hosts on Revolution Radio are doing. And our operator and owner of the network can't do the work that he's doing for us without those donations. So if you're on Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, you can pay the $5 a month archives to all the shows. You can also do donation. You can buy, go to the funding area and you can look for seeds. And also we are doing some advertising banners on the website, which are affordable. And I actually have one. So it is all good. Also, I'm trying to think about anything else that I need to let people know about. And I need to hold on one second. Let me just see what my, I need to see what my guest for next week is. And next week we're having Thrice back on. All right, everybody. Thank you, Jules.
You're welcome.
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message. Revolution Radio.
You don't see it, do you? How close we are to absolute chaos? The sick ones are sitting on their fat asses, eating and drink themselves into a stupor, polluting the world without a second thought while it goes down the toilet. Nobody wants to do the nasty work. You know, the shit that we all just think about. Most good citizens are just along for the ride and then bitch and moan and complain about everything when it doesn't work out. Not me. Get it done.
Revolution Radio, where we do the nasty work. www.freedomslips.com.
This is the people's war. It is our war. We are the fighters. Fight it then. Fight it with all that is in us. And may God defend the right.
Warning! Warning!
We gotta stop them! They're gonna kill us all! See how the trouble you've started? Be they the government, be they industry, be they organized labor, be they anyone, or human beings. Time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheels, upon the levers, upon all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. And you've got to indicate to the people who run it, to the people who own it, that unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from working at all.
Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported talk radio station, throwing ourselves upon the gears of the machine. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
You called down the thunder, well now you got it. Right! You tell them I'm coming! And hell's coming with me, you hear? Hell's coming with me!
Revolution Radio! The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution